Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sargassum Podcast, brought to you by Florida International University, Kimberly Green Latin American and Caribbean Center. And I want to just welcome you all here today. And we got Fran hosting with us today, as well as Florence, which is also the town I'm in today. And how you guys doing?
I'm doing good. Yesterday I got to go swimming again. We had a bit of a brown tide lately, but it's been clearing up here in Playa. So the end of Sargassum season is near, hopefully. But yeah, I'm doing good. And how are you, Florence?
I'm fine, thank you. In July and August, I returned home to Brittany and to work on the data from my fieldwork on the social impacts of Sargassum in Marie-Galante in Guadeloupe. And in early September, I was sailing near the coast in Brittany. I would like to apologize to our guests and listeners right away, right now, as this is the first time I have done the Sargassum podcast in English. And you, Robbie, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm recovering from that little accident I had. I can scratch the top of my head now. It was something I couldn't do just a couple of weeks ago, and all that. Really excited about the progress of the project last summer, and we're about to present on Friday in the annual Congress of the La Sociedad Mesoamericana para Biología y Conservación. We're going to present our book that we just recently used in Quintana Roo, our educational materials, and we're really excited about that. But enough about us. We've got some couple of interesting people today, and we have Judith Rosellon, and she's a biologist and oceanographer with extensive experience in fisheries management and ecology, and marine spatial management and evaluation of marine protected areas and fishery stock assessment and just a whole lot of really cool stuff. She has a Ph.D. from the School of Marine and Technology at the University of UMass at Dartmouth, and worked her postdoc as a postdoc fellow at the College of Fisheries and Ocean Sciences at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And I think that's pretty cool place for somebody from Mexico City to be at myself. I don't even like it up there, but she's currently the lead researcher at the National Council for Science and Technology and CONACYT, and all her international background oceanographic studies is both in Mexico and the USA, makes it possible to understand, develop, and coordinate complex marine co-management and policy projects between the U.S. and Latin American countries. We also have somebody from down south in Florida, Justin Suka. He's a fish ecologist at the Cooperative Institute for Marine and Atmospheric Research in Honolulu, Hawaii. His research includes studies on the diet and growth of fish, but he typically focuses on understanding and predicting distribution abundance of fisheries relevant species. He got involved with this project because he grew up in Florida and had experienced sargassum inundation events in his high school and college years, and this also provided an opportunity to connect with the fishing communities he grew up around. We also have Laura McAdam Otto, and she's an anthropologist at the Goethe University in Frankfurt, Germany. Her work focuses on governance practices in the field of both forced migration and anthropogenic environmental change. Her research and teaching is located at the interface of anthropology, cultural studies, science, and technology studies. And she sounds like she's working at the same exact spot I'm located, because we're kind of the nexus of those things as well. But together, they worked on a project, Binational Local Knowledge of Sargassum Events, which was supported by the U.S. Department of State through the Partners of the America grant program. The objective of this project in particular was to document local knowledge of coastal communities in Mexico, Quintana Roo specifically, and the U.S. state of Florida regarding the atypical influxes of sargassum. And so we got a lot of really neat people here today. And I think we're going to go get started with Francesca in the first question. Thank you.
Welcome to our podcast. It's really nice to have you. And our first question that we ask to all our guests is, we want to know what sargassum is to you personally. So if each of you could tell us a bit what sargassum is to you, that would be fantastic.
Well, thank you everyone for that. Thank you, Robbie, for that introduction, and thank you everyone for inviting us to this. We're very excited to be here. So I'll be very brief. I think sargassum for me right now is the subject of my research, and personally, I see it as a very important proof of climate change. I think it's just something that we can see that it's there, that it started like 10, well, a little bit more than 10 years ago, 13 years ago almost. And I think it's something that, the earth is telling us things are changing, and things are changing because you as humans are doing a lot of things to to change what is going on in the world. So and also, as we're going to talk about this project, for me, it's something that has a huge social impact. So it's not something environmental or ecological. It's also something that is affecting people. And I think this is one of the most important things that we're trying to say with our project. So thank you.
I can go next. Well, thank you everybody for having us tonight. And well, I thought about the question, and for me, sargassum really is many things, different things. And I think that's also what we have shown with our project. For me personally, as an anthropologist, I'm interested in coastal transformations, and I always wonder what happens when a new actor arrives on shore. And viewing sargassum like that really, well, I find it so fascinating that this algae, what it generates and how it mobilizes so many different people and actors on the ground, how it brings together different people. For example, hoteliers and scientists are now working closely together, which I find really, really fascinating. And while on a personal level, West Sargassum has become something that I'm thinking about every day now. I think about it, I talk about it, I write about it. So it has become a very essential part of my everyday life. Like there's no day without sargassum anymore. And of course, it has brought me also in touch with great people. Well, some of them are here tonight with me, but that of course also applies very much to the people in the field I work with and who are willing to share their sargassum stories and experiences with me. So that has been a very, well, personally enriching journey over the past 3.5 years for me, for which I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and for me, and again, thank you everybody for having us on here again. Sargassum for me, growing up was always fish habitat. So I'm a fish ecologist, so my perspective is probably a bit different in a lot of ways. But I also grew up in Florida, fishing off of sargassum and always noticing that it was a habitat for larval fish and effectively a nursery offshore. And that kind of changed. So that's where it means multiple things, I would say, to me as well. Once it got started to become a problem onshore and inundating shorelines around Miami when I was an undergraduate. And then I started seeing it as, while it was still a habitat offshore, this potential problem. And that explosion of sargassum later on in my college years was really an interesting change to my perspective on this organism that was nothing but beneficial in my eyes to suddenly something that could actually cause a problem for people. Even the fishers that use it to fish offshore can lead to the same exact species being a real problem when they're just trying to deal with shoreside issues.
Thank you for this diversity of point of view about sargassum. I have a second question. Tell us a bit about your project and the activities you did under it.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Florence. Okay, so the idea of this project came because we know a lot about sargassum from, the academic knowledge, the scientific knowledge, and we have made a lot of advancements in what we know about this. But there are still a lot of unanswering questions about this topic. So in order to fill a little bit the gaps of these unanswered questions, or at least try to focus the research better in places where we need answers, we need to use other type of knowledge. So this other type of knowledge can come from, the people that live in the affected areas. And this knowledge is based on day-to-day, living with the problem, experiencing the problem, having to face the problem in different ways. So this type of knowledge is known as local ecological knowledge or local knowledge. And that's what we are trying to understand a little bit more with this project. So we know that using the local ecological knowledge and the academic knowledge in any type of scientific project that has to do with decision making, and that decision makers are going to take a look to produce, policies or management decisions. So the amalgamation of these two types of knowledge increases the effectiveness of the decision making process. And it's absolutely needed to, provide more legitimacy in this decision making process. So as Robbie was saying, the objective of this project was to compile and document local knowledge of native, indigenous, and other local members of two communities, or two big communities, one in Quintana Roo, and one in Quintana Roo, Mexico, and one in Florida in the US. We did that with different reasons, but some of these reasons were to facilitate the exchange of knowledge and experiences among local communities of very different countries. Also, we wanted to incorporate that local knowledge into what we know from the traditional Western science, from the scientific knowledge, integrate that local knowledge into, like I said, into the decision-making process of coastal zone management, and also enhance international cooperation to address a shared socio-environmental challenge that these two countries are facing. So, especially what we did in this project was to do a lot of interviews and workshops with the communities of these two countries. We did on-site interviews especially in the Florida Keys area. Justin did those interviews, so I'm pretty sure Justin is going to talk about his experience in Florida doing these interviews in a little bit. Also for, all the Florida area, we did an online workshop where we invited a lot of stakeholders. So we have, people from fishermen, from NGOs, from the civil society, from the business, from different types of stakeholders invited to these workshops. Then in Mexico, we did also on-site interview. Those were led by Laura and I. So I think it's also going to be very interesting to hear about the experience that Laura has from those interviews. And we also did a small on-site workshop with the Mayan community in Felipe Carrillo Puerto. That was very interesting. I led that with another colleague. And so all the information that we got from those workshops and interviews was processed, analyzed, and summarized. We produce with that information, we produced a leaflet that was translated in English, Spanish, and Maya. If any of our listeners wants to have a copy of that leaflet, please shoot me an email and I will gladly share that with you. I think it contains very nice information in a way that everyone can learn about this topic. And also, we are currently working on a scientific paper and also on an outreaching paper. So we can basically share the results of this interesting project with everyone. And we recently had another meeting with all the participants of both countries to share the results and ask for feedback of the whole process. So I think that's a little bit of what we did. I will probably save what we found for a later question, but that's basically what we did.
Very nice. Were you working with Marco in Cayo Puerto, or who were you working with there?
In where?
In Cayo Puerto. You were working with Marco, or who were you working with there?
Oh, no, I was working with the community of the Instituto. What one of the universities did. So we did the workshop in the university there, and the community that was invited was from from the university community, but they are all Mayas. So yeah,
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much for that. Um,
yeah.
well, the thing I want to know is what is what were the differences and experiences with sargassum? Were they different or similar? Your experiences between Quintana Roo and Florida, and how about maybe Laura and Justin take that one?
Yeah, and Laura, I think both of them can answer very nicely this question.
Excellent.
I'm happy to start. So I was only doing interviews explicitly in Florida, so I don't have the firsthand experience that Laura does for Quintana Roo. But in Florida, I thought it was interesting in terms of timing of when we went there, and also kind of diversity of who felt sargassum was a problem. So the interviews were conducted in winter, which is not the primary sargassum inundation season. So I think there's probably a little bit of out of sight, out of mind mentality there. And also, it hasn't really experienced the same level of inundation that I think a lot of coastal Mexico has experienced. Another interesting thing about conducting those interviews in the Florida Keys, if those of you have spent a lot of time in South Florida and the Florida Keys, know that it's a place that's highly transient and often gets people moving there from other places. So finding people who have a long-term experience with sargassum in the environment can often be difficult. And so that was one of the reasons I wound up targeting fishers, both because they have a stake in the environmental impact of sargassum, but also those tend to be the people who had actually lived and grown up around that area. And in their case, they had a different view, basically where they fished and what timing they were interacting with the sargassum. So there was definitely the appreciation that sargassum is really important offshore, but it could be really much of a problem when it, again, gets inshore. Even those offshore fishers who recognize that it's an important part of the ecosystem for the fish that they are fishing for have started to notice that it was being impossible to bring boats into the harbor. It made just like plowing through quite difficult. They are also even reporting in cases larger increases of dead sargassum that just weren't holding fish offshore like they typically did. So I thought that was an interesting feedback there. But a lot of the general consensus I got from my interpretation of what people were saying is that it's a natural part of the ecosystem. So there was a bit of a hesitancy to do much about it. I think because of the knowledge of how important it can be while it's actually offshore and not inundating the coast. That wasn't as much the case, I think, for those who were really focused on resort-style beaches. In that case, there was a problem. They wanted to get rid of it. And so that was interesting. There was definitely a difference in stakeholders. But even within those stakeholders, there was another interesting divide of kind of those who worked in those industries but had actually still grown up in the Florida Keys or around Florida versus those who were, I think, more interested and focused on the industry side of tourism. Because even talking to some people in the industry that were kind of had grown up around Florida, they recognized it was a problem for their services, in tourism, but they again still felt like it was a natural part of the ecosystem. So a bit of a long-winded answer, but it felt kind of like this interesting push-pull between a little bit between sectors, and this little bit of a acknowledgement that it's a big problem, but it's still a hesitancy to really want to put in some industrial scale removal and process for sargassum.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Well, I'm happy to add to what you've just said. I think what I found also very interesting in when we compared the data that we have between Mexico and the United States was that in the United States, more people viewed sargassum to be an opportunity. So that was 31% of our interlocutors in Florida said, yeah, it's an opportunity, whereas only 17% of our Mexican research participants viewed sargassum to be an opportunity. And I can only guess why. Maybe it's direct. Well, it has to do with an entrepreneurial spirit that's probably very much associated with the United States. Oftentimes, when I think about my fieldwork in Mexico, many people who try to invest in these businesses are from the United States. So there certainly is this connection between businesses and Americans in the context of sargassum. Maybe it also has to do with the fact that, well, there are a lot of great projects and businesses that are Mexican-led, but people on the ground also know how difficult it is to turn it into a business case, how to, well, scale it properly, how to really make a living out of that. So maybe they viewed it as an opportunity at first, and now the enthusiasm is already going down a little. That's, I think, well, that was striking in our data, I guess. And what I also sensed was that many people we've talked to mentioned that they used to play with sargassum when they were children. So I think that really also relates to what Justin just said. It has so many different meanings, and it has changed its meaning over time. And the project that we've conducted together really revealed like longer term histories and stories and relationships people have with sargassum. Now everybody's really focused on this contemporary problem with the massive beaching events, but there's a longer story to that. And I think that was really revealing in both countries, that people also said, but when I was a kid, I used to play with it. And they really emphasized the different relationship that they used to have. And of course, in Mexico, many people were really concerned with the tourism industry, the tourism sector. Tourists start complaining about it online and on site. And it's really, really difficult to remove all the sargassum from the beaches. And that again has impact. So people were at the same time worried about the future of the tourism industry, but only about the future of their own livelihoods along the Mexican coast. So that I think is really important for the Mexican case.
If you don't mind, I'd just to add and affirm some things that Laura just said from personal observation in Florida. The hesitancy with tourists component was definitely there. I think that what led to difficulty getting actually interviews and discussions from people in these larger scale chains, basically operations, in terms of the hotel industries and things of the like. I think it was they don't want to advertise this problem any more than it already kind of is online from some reviewers. But another thing, probably a more relevant point to, again, affirm what Laura just said, I think that entrepreneurial spirit and that belief in the private sector is particularly strong in Florida. So in the United States, that's probably generally true. But culturally, the Keys are definitely fairly connected to the American South. And so I think that kind of skepticism of rolling a large government program into trying to help this will be particularly strong in that area. And you kind of got the inkling of that. And as opposed, they would rather it kind of be done through the private sector. So anyway, it's just an interesting context that it goes beyond, I think, just being in the United States. It's also kind of something that could be very specific to the region of the United States where this problem's happening.
Well, yeah, and also...
Yeah.
Oh.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Laura.
Okay. Well, Judith, you said in the beginning that for you, sargassum is also a very visible form of climate change. And what we've also heard a couple of times was that sargassum is Mother Nature's revenge for us humans misbehaving on Earth, over exploiting resources, not treating nature well. And it was also a repeating topic in the conversations that we've had.
Yeah, and I also wanted to just add to this one thing that was interesting to me about the differences between the interviews in Florida and Quintana Roo. And I don't know if that's something cultural. I don't know what is that. But the time that people take to answer these questionnaires was very different. In US, I think Justin can say that talking for 40 minutes was a very, very long interview. Mostly in Florida, the interviews were about 10, 15 minutes at most. While in Mexico, people could talk for hours. So we had like interviews 3 or 4 hours long. And I mean, it was really nice because we could hear a lot of, experiences and stories that people have to tell. So I think I just want to put that there because I thought it was something interesting, the time that people take to answer questions in both countries.
No, that's super interesting to hear. I have lived in Florida before there was sargassum, and now I live in Quintana Roo. And I find it especially interesting what you said about the entrepreneurial spirit and that it's stronger in Florida than Quintana Roo, because to me, from what I see and what I know about other islands and also Florida, is that we have probably the most entrepreneurs in sargassum here in Quintana Roo than anywhere else. We have so many different firms who are doing stuff. But as you said, maybe they know the hurdles and they know it's not that easy to actually scale it up. And also, from what I know, is that most locals are not aware of these companies, or have very little awareness that these companies exist. So they may not even know what is being done in Quintana Roo in terms of making products. I wanted to ask you, I mean, you focus on Mexico and Florida here, but of course the region that is impacted is much bigger, and it's an interregional problem, but also very territory specific, as you showed that different territories, they think differently about this. So have you thought about expanding this research to include other places, or have you had exchanges with either scientists or with locals or politicians from other places to see how the perception is different in Quintana Roo and Florida compared to other places in the Caribbean?
Yeah, so I work for the government here in Mexico. I work for CONACYT, and in CONACYT, one of our main, lines of work is to try to enhance international collaboration to, face this phenomenon in a very holistic way, in a very integral way, and so yes, because of that, we are always trying to reach other governments and other countries to try to make research together. However, this project obviously just this project took place this year. We started with this project at the very beginning of the year, January. Basically, we started with the interviews and so on. So we are just coming up with the results of this research. As 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 much as we know, this is the first kind of work that it's trying to understand the local knowledge for different countries in this topic. Obviously we will love to try to work with more communities in other countries, and starting making these comparisons, and also hear about the stories that people have to tell in other countries, because I'm pretty sure we're going to find very interesting differences and similarities between countries in the region that are affected by this. However, like any project, we are completely depending on funding and time and other projects that uh, happen to come in our way. So yeah, I mean, we will try to keep on going with this project in the future, but at this point, we are still dependent on funding.
Okay, so yes, it's really interesting. It sounds really interesting to me because I'm really interested in what you say, because with a Mexican anthropologist that maybe called Julia Fraga, we have started an international collaboration and presented 3 years ago. We present a first panel at the Mare Colloquium, Mare Seminar at the University of Amsterdam about the topic Sargassum and the social impact of Sargassum in Lesser Antilles, in Martinique and Guadeloupe, and in Mexico. And moreover, your data are close to mine. So it's really interesting for me to exchange with you because I have some data on Martinique and Guadeloupe about, for example, the symptom of the sargassum as a symptom of climate change or of revenge of the sea. I would like to ask a question to Judith. Did you ever met or worked before with a social scientist? And do the social scientists worked with a biologist? And the question about your interdisciplinary team.
Well, we are learning that we can exchange information in this group, so that's very nice. And this, I just want to say that I think that's what science is about. Finding other people that are doing similar things that you are doing and try to collaborate. And that's exactly what I think we try to do with this project. This project, obviously, by its nature, it's very complex. The topic of sargassum is very complex. So we needed, specialists in biology, in ecology, and environmental sciences. It's also a very political issue. So we needed a political science expert. And obviously, because we are dealing with local knowledge, we needed, a social scientist, an anthropologist like Laura on board, to be sure that we understand me as a biologist, and I can also probably by speak on behalf of Justin, as we are biologists, our knowledge of social science and how to ask questions and how to deal with people directly, it's limited, and as it's not easy at all, and you need a lot of experience to do it correctly. That's why you need the experience of a social scientist, of an anthropologist. So that's why we know from the very beginning of this project that we needed to construct this multidisciplinary team in order to succeed and have a good project. So yeah, I mean, probably the first month of our work with this project was to put together this amazing team of people. Here we have Laura and Justin, but like I said, we also have political science on board, and oceanographers and biologists, and so it was a really nice team to work with. And yes, I did this before. My postdoc in Alaska was about integrated ecosystem assessment, to implement an integrated ecosystem assessment in the Gulf of Alaska. So obviously that was also a very complex task that involved to work with a lot of different disciplines. So in that project, I was in charge of constructing socio-ecological models and operationalize them to understand all these links between the biology of fisheries there and the ecology and the economy and the social aspects of these fisheries. So, I mean, in that group, we also have experts in social science that they were amazing to work with, and obviously, these 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 projects have a lot in common, as you can see.
Yeah, Florence, to answer your question, well, I have not collaborated with natural scientists before. I studied biology for one semester, but that's a really long time ago. So I do have this general interest in that discipline too. But like collaborating on this level, and with such a big group was completely new. And I think, well, what Judith said, I think is true. And in working together, like having all this knowledge about the ecology and the ecosystem and so on and so forth, really also helped us like formulating topics that are of interest to the communities that are affected, for example, fishermen. And then maybe I brought in some ideas of how to phrase questions so that we can stimulate narration instead of having like yes or no answers and trying to understand the stories better. And I think in working together in such a way was really productive. And I think what really made our group working together well was, well, we met oftentimes online. So that was certainly one case. I think the exchange was really close. And then in my understanding, everybody treated the other persons and disciplines with a lot of respect and interest. So it really was not about fighting for one's own discipline or me trying to let us write an anthropological paper or something, not like imposing on others, but we really tried to find like a common ground everybody can live with and everybody is happy with. And I think that was an important aspect of this type of collaboration that we've had, like really showing interest in other people's ways of thinking.
A a wise man once said that as scientists we will be not be able to contribute in a meaningful way to fisheries management policies if we are unaware of the needs of the local fishermen and take these things into consideration. And I think I was kind of hearing a little bit of that there. We need to be pay more attention. I think I've heard that theme throughout what we're talking about today, and I'm just wanted to let you know we're paying attention. That being said, after the workshops you created, Judith, you created the information flyer about Sargassum and Maya and Spanish and English. And what led to this, and why do you think this resource is needed?
Yeah. Well, the like you said at the beginning, this project was funded by Partners of America that works with the Department of State of the United States. And these Partners of America funds projects, not necessarily scientific projects, but projects that have an impact on communities, that have a lot of public service significance. So that's the objective of these fundings in the core. It's not about funding something, scientific study. So obviously, from the very beginning of the conception of this work, we needed to think about how we can return something to the communities that we were going to interview. And this is something that I just have to give as an advice to everyone who is trying to do this type of work. When you are extracting or getting knowledge from these communities, you need to give something back. I mean, that's just a reciprocity issue that you need to take in account with this type of this type of work. So one of the things that we thought we could achieve that public service significance with this project was to produce, something that could show what we learn about, what we learn about this local knowledge, produce something that was available to everyone. And that something that was available in different language, because some of us, we were working with two countries, United States and Mexico. We needed to produce at least, Spanish and English, because not everyone in Mexico will speak English and vice versa. And also, every community has the right to learn things in their own language. So for the Mayan communities that we interview, they have the right to learn about sargassum in Maya. And that's something that it could be very nice to them, to see that someone is interesting and putting effort in translating this material into their own language. So I think those were the reasons we thought it was very important to put as a priority to give back something to the communities that provide us this amazing knowledge.
Thank you. I have a question to Laura. I don't know if I have to say Laura or Laura.
Well, everything works, I think. Laura is the German pronunciation. Laura would probably be more American. Laura would probably be the French version. So I respond to whatever you call me.
Okay, thank you. So I have another question because as I'm an anthropologist myself, I'm very interested about the methodology in your field. And as you are from a German university, but working on an international team, I would like to know if you have a precise protocol in your interviews with the residents. More specifically, in France, for example, in order to conduct social science research, we need to make our data non-identifying. Do you have the same obligation?
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for that question, which really touches upon questions of research ethics, I think. And that is something we've discussed many times within our group as well. Well, as an anthropologist, part of my work, or a huge part of my work, is besides interviews, is also participant observation. So when I'm in Mexico, I hang out with people. I become part of their everyday life, of their routines, and I participate in their practices. Like I've worked as a beach cleaner, for example, and I cleaned beaches from Sargassum, and during that we have conversations, people share their thoughts, and so on and so forth. And then in the interviews that I conduct, I try. There's no set questionnaire which I ask every person the same questions, but my goal really is to stimulate a narration and a conversation. So I try to come up with questions that are hopefully of interest to the person, and then get some longer answers, and then continue from there and develop my answers while we are talking. So this is about I think the anthropological approach to the people I'm working with. And having said that, well, anthropological research really is based on trust. Like I need people in the field who trust me and who open their doors so that I can participate. And then, of course, in terms of research ethics, as you've asked, my priority really is to protect the people who are talking to me. And that, well, one aspect I think really is to try and make people as unidentifiable as possible. Sometimes the communities we are working with are not super big, so maybe with some research people could still find out whom we were talking to. So I think we really have to make sure that we do not reveal like delicate issues, or if we are uncertain, ask the person what the person thinks about it. But then still, I think, for example, giving people a pseudonym is worthwhile. Some people said to me in the field, no, use my real name. I don't have a problem with that. Still, I will choose, or I have chosen pseudonyms. That's a very powerful move too. So I think there's always these these situations are ambivalent. Let's put it that way. There's not an anonymous answer, I guess, what great research ethics are, but trying to protect the people who trust us is the most important to me. And then what was really great during my last trip to Mexico, so I just returned 2 days ago, and it really helped to talk about some research results with the people in the field. So to better understand, is what I'm writing useful? Does it make sense? Do they find themselves in my analysis? Does it resonate with what they are doing, what they are thinking? So having this reflexive process really helped, I think, in this project. But of course, yes, we do have, as a German scientist, I work under European data regulations, as probably Florence, you also do. And then we have the German Anthropological Association, which is of great help. They do provide guidelines for good fieldwork practices, and so does the American Anthropological Association. And I think reading these guidelines carefully is very helpful. And then our goal should be do no harm in fieldwork. And that could also mean discuss with the people what would be harmful, because that's not necessarily reflected in these guidelines. So talking about that with the people in the field and what does ethical research mean for them, I think that's very important also.
Thank you so much for this really interesting answer, Laura. And we just heard a lot from you guys about being respectful to the locals that you are interviewing and giving back to them. And I mean, none of you are currently residents of the places that you did the interviews. And we like to know, how did the residents receive your research, not for the sake of you not being from there? Did that impact your research at all?
Well, people oftentimes wondered, don't they have enough problems with climate change in Germany too? So why see here? And then, we often talked about this being a global phenomenon and Sargassum being entangled with so many drivers, and that it happens in a very local context, but it's a global phenomenon. So we often discuss that. I did experience a lot of openness and great hospitality in Mexico. People were really helpful. It was rather easy to get access to the field, which is not always the case in anthropological field work. But people really communicated an interest in my work or in our work in general. I think that applies for my own research, but also for our collaboration, that people really opened their doors, and that we were always welcome. I think one of the main reasons is that in what we did, trying to stimulate conversation, trying to take people's stories seriously, people felt to be seen. They felt to be treated with a lot of respect, and that they count in the narrative on Sargassum. So everyday actors were suddenly given the opportunity to share their experiences too. And I think that was very helpful for us. And then people also always agreed on that we need to know more about it. They oftentimes communicated that the knowledge on Sargassum is not yet enough, and that they really value all kinds of research and approaches that are trying to contribute to a better understanding of what happens. And people oftentimes said, please return, please don't give up, please continue with your work. It's important. And of course, we are very thankful and grateful for the hospitality and people's willingness to share their stories, because without them, we'd be lost. But of course, in the field, I'm often seen as a person who could potentially connect people because I am, or we were, in touch with so many different stakeholders. And people often understood this to be a benefit, like us working as translators among different actors. As you said, Francisca, they are not all the time aware of what happens just next door, right? Is there a business? Is there an environmentalist? Is there a scientist working on this? So I think that was, that's seen as a benefit, I think, us working as translators or networkers in the field of sargassum. But then, of course, sometimes there are hopes communicated that we cannot fulfill. One person said to me once, like, couldn't you call Bill Gates and ask him to invest in solving the problem? And I can't. So Bill Gates, if you listen to this podcast, reach out. But jokes aside, it's absolutely understandable that different people have different hopes, and that some really need help. There are villages where it's now difficult to live in, and of course, these people are probably viewing researchers as a window of opportunity to make others aware of the difficulties they now face in their everyday life. But of course, we were not able to do that. But I think in the way we communicate our research, the results is also a way to make knowledge about sargassum, and also the podcast, for example, accessible to broader society. And maybe that one day contributes to finding people who can invest in solutions and who are willing to do something and to help. That's, I think, at least the hope that we have, or as a role, I think that we have too. Like, not only doing this for the sake of science.
I also would like to add to what Laura is saying. I think it's very important. I received that question from a lot of people. They were asking how what you are getting from these answers are going to help us. And again, I think if we go back to the objectives of this research, the objectives were to, amalgamate what we know about traditional science with this local knowledge, and try to direct better the research that is being currently in place. And also, at least on my behalf, because I work with the National Council for Science and Technology in Mexico, I can, give these results to, my bosses, and so they know as government what is going on with what people are experiencing. So I think that comes with trying to use this type of knowledge to try to, or incorporate this type of knowledge into making public policies. So I think, and at the end, this is what our hopefully our research is going to be used for, to making better management decisions and public policies. And also, one thing that I think it's interesting that we haven't talked about is that the approaches that we use to contact people were different in US and Mexico. In Florida, to do the interviews, and Justin can talk about that. Justin used a snowball approach. So he went to the Florida Keys and, started interview one person and then going to another that person recommend, and so on and so on. In Mexico, we did a very different approach where we first contacted, colleagues from universities, NGOs, different type of institutions, and probably because I'm from Mexico, so I was more familiar to, which institutions I can contact to get more participants into this project. But I thought that was absolutely necessary because we were able to set up interviews in advance, so people could take their time to receive us and answer these questions. And for example, for the fisheries villages, I think it was absolutely necessary to first introduce ourselves, first introduce the project to gain their trust and to gain their interest about this project. Because if you go to this village just like that, I think it's and I think that's something that I learned from Laura as well. I think it's just rude. You need to introduce yourself first and gain their trust. And I think that was, a key thing to uh, being able to talk with these fisheries villages for for a long time and getting really interesting information from these places. Justin, I don't know if you want to talk about that snowball approach and how you receive the how the people perceive your work.
Yeah, I think it was generally well received. I mostly focused on fishers, again, kind of at docks, and that's how the snowballing started, was getting people who were interested to chat while they were working for the most part. And that gave them an opportunity to express what they're interested in. They also had the time to discuss, though it did have this, it creates a positive feedback loop a little bit towards moving towards fishers. So some of the times when we needed to, integrate other sectors, had to make very intentional shifts as far as like who to talk to. In terms of the approach, I don't know. In terms of the Florida Keys, there's not as much of a large, maybe local connection that I knew of, or that we necessarily had in terms of researchers that I knew people who would be willing to talk all the time. And also, I think it's a little bit different perspective talking to people who are kind of working on the water day to day, who might not actually be already involved in science. Because I think what was interesting, and I don't know if this is as much the case in Mexico, but in Florida, if you get fishers who are already working with scientists, it's definitely a skewed population to the general fishing population in terms of what their responses are likely going to be, how they actually view things. So if it's a little bit more of a random sample, which I aim to kind of start with, it, I think, gave probably a bit more balanced assessment, though even frankly there, people willing to talk to me already gives some degree of bias as to what they're likely to respond anyways. So I thought that was interesting in its own right. And I also think that's another thing, and I'm mostly just speaking from my knowledge in Florida, there's a little bit, and I'm not a cultural anthropologist, so I just want to clarify this. This is just my experiences growing up and my kind of curiosities learning more about different parts of the U.S. as I've moved about around them and have noticed things and read about information on the history about why some of these relationships exist. But there's definitely there's a heavy skepticism of academics in a lot of these communities, if not resentment. And so I think figuring out that balance of how to try to not present in a way, and this is something that the others have already been touching on, that's very collegial, not this kind of air of superiority or anything like that, not this extractive kind of mindset. It's being able to present in a very equal footing and express that's clear that this is going to be information that will be able to be used by scientists in a helpful manner for the fishing community, and not to just basically extract information from them and then walk away and never talk to them again. And so, as far as exactly how the snowball approach differs in terms of responses to what was done in Quintana Roo, I don't exactly know how much that would skew it, but it certainly probably does result in a little bit of differences there. This is another thing. I just kind of want to go back, and I feel like this is an important thing to mention. It was discussed that this entrepreneurial spirit got thrown around a bit, and I think admittedly I kind of went along with it, but I think there's an important distinction to make there, because I think it's a little bit dangerous to claim that one area had more entrepreneurial spirit than the other. At its core, upon reflection, I don't think that's a good thing to say or a fair thing to say. You're probably right that it might be actually stronger in Quintana Roo. I think the difference there is actually a larger cultural difference in just the blanket trust in the private sector to solve issues, more so than an actual entrepreneurial spirit. So I think it's maybe a next level difference, not exactly trusting and having a number of people who are trying to tackle the problem necessarily in Florida, as much as it is a belief that somebody will eventually do it on the private side, and that those are the people who should be responding to this problem, even if there's no actual individuals that are identified or any actual higher motivation in that working group. If that makes sense. I just feel like that's an important difference to clarify versus that actual separation and entrepreneurial spirit between two regions. Because I think it speaks to the culture at a broader level than actually individual motivation.
And if I just add to that last part of the response that Justin just said, I think it's very important because also Laura was specifying that 30% of the participants in US saw this as an opportunity. Well, I think it was 18% in Mexico who saw this as an opportunity. And I think that difference has to do a lot with what we said at the very beginning of this interview, is that the effects on people's lives that we have in the US compared to the Mexico are very different. So when something is affecting your well-being, you're not going to see it as something good. It's just what it is. So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these differences.
Yeah, and also I think as I said, I worked as a beach cleaner, for example, and thousands of people do every day on the shores of Quintana Roo. And it's hard work. It's really tiring. Wet sargassum is heavy, and you have a job in the bright sunshine, which is not great. It's hot. It burns your skin, and it's a Sisyphean task. It's frustrating work. You do it for hours and hours and hours, and it just keeps coming. And I think that's also that also plays a crucial role, that most of the people we've talked to have realized that this is a new normal. It will continue to come, and it makes them sad and worried about the future. And I think that also, as Judith just said, plays a crucial role in how can we view this as being an opportunity. Like, it's so much, it's overwhelming. We try so hard to do something. We invest, we think about it, we learn about it. We work hard every day, and it keeps coming, and it's becoming more. And some people, I think we've talked to, at least that's how I felt, some have given up. Justin said, I think there was resentment. And I think, the level of frustration and an insecure future is really high in that region.
Those both really great points. And I thank you for bringing that up and kind of steering that a little bit more in that direction, because I think that's probably a huge role. And I guess I am also curious, even in Florida, how different the responses would have been if we had conducted them in July of 2016 or something like that, where there was a huge inundation in the middle of the inundation, as opposed to something that they knew basically becomes somewhat ephemeral, especially once you get into the winter months. So anyways, just want to say, thank you.
Okay, Justin, give me a second. Okay, Justin was born in Florida, and he now lives in the middle of the Pacific, east of Challenger Deep, and as a former full-time resident of Florida, what was your experience doing fieldwork there?
It was really good. It was kind of nice to go back and be involved and talk to fishers, those who I kind of grew up around. While the exact people were a bit different, there were even some people that I didn't interview, but it was interesting to see that I kind of recognized and knew from the general area kind of one going about that region. So I felt it was really nice to feel like that the work was trying to help a community that I was familiar with and grew up around. So I did really enjoy those aspects of it. I think it was helpful in some regards in terms of having a baseline for understanding what people might say, whether it's, who might reject the interview and give an off-color remark, or who might actually be more willing to talk. And I think kind of being familiar with the area did help a little bit with that region in terms of trying to find interviews. So yeah, I think I really enjoyed being able to be involved in something that felt very much at home for me, as opposed to most of my research has been in regions where I've been working, which have not been Florida for quite a while. So definitely enjoyed that experience.
Thank you. Well, I'm not sure if we need to have this question, but because I think it's a topic that you already talked about. And do you see a social injustice and an environmental ecological injustice in the problems associated with sargassum?
Yeah, thank you for that very, very important question. I think, well, in terms of social and environmental injustice, we've learned different things. What I found very interesting was or is the ambivalent role, for example, that tourism plays. Because on the one hand, people kept telling us that tourism really contributes to climate change and that is a part of the problem with sargassum. Yet on the other hand, in touristified areas, there's much more done about the problem. So tourism here really also is part of addressing it. I'm not saying it's part of the solution, because I think we don't know yet what a solution would look like. But where there are tourists, sargassum is removed, which means that people are just less exposed to it. Things are done about it. But in non-touristified areas, which especially Judith and I found in the more southern parts of Quintana Roo, there are villages and there's no tourists, and there will probably not be tourism in the future. But of course, they also receive a lot of sargassum, and they are overwhelmed. People really don't know what to do with all the sargassum. So they don't really know about, should we remove it? And if yes, how can we? Where should we place it? Where shouldn't we place it? Do we receive any financial help? So they were concerned with very different questions than the people that live close to touristified areas. So I think the ambivalent role tourism plays here was really, really interesting. And then also, I think when we think about Mexico, the dominant discourse is about the tourism industry, which makes sense because so many people financially depend on it. It's a very important economy there. But of course, we also have fishermen. And I think one story that was really, I think, Judith, you would agree to this, but we were really emotionally touched, was when you returned from Chianca Nature Reserve and fishermen told you that in the past, they woke up, they entered the ocean, and they went like fishing by hand because the water is so shallow and it was so crystal clear that they could just see their prey and just catch it. And it was an easy breakfast, and they didn't need a boat. They didn't need financial investments in fuel or the boat or a net. But now with sargassum in the near coast waters, they cannot see the fish. The fish have left. Many of them died because sargassum takes out the oxygen out of the water. And now they need a boat. They need to make an investment. And they are facing a situation of food insecurity. And well, that should be a concern too. And there's so much emphasis on the suffering tourist experiencing a ruined holiday and complaining on TripAdvisor that the Instagram pictures are less beautiful than they were expected to be. That's one concern. but we came across very, very more substantial concerns, and that is, can we continue living here in the future? And well, that's certainly something that we've learned. And I think sargassum, as an anthropologist, when I think about sargassum, I think about belonging and the question of who or what belongs where, or where one doesn't belong any longer. And then, of course, there's always the question, does sargassum belong to our coasts or not? Is it invasive or isn't it? So it's ambivalent itself. And then it's like, when we have a lot of sargassum, can humans continue living there? But it also poses the question of belonging of other non-human species. And as I'm well interested in human, non-human relations, but also in non-human, non-human relations from an anthropological perspective, that really poses the question of belonging and who can be where or cannot be where. And I think that's well, that's an important aspect that sargassum brings about, these changes in like relations among very different actors that are affected by it. So yeah, we did learn a lot about social and environmental injustice and belonging.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And adding to what Laura just said, I was also very well, not surprised, but it was striking to hear about what the Mayan community told us about this as well. So basically, in Felipe Carrillo Puerto, they told us that there's a huge inequity. And for example, they say that the government is so focused on the touristic areas and try to resolve the problem so we can have more tourists, but those places where no tourists are completely abandoned by the government in this sense. And they are saying, we have such a rich culture here and beautiful places to visit, and the government could say, okay, let's put some resources to try to push the tourists to the Mayan areas and try to push cultural tourism, Mayan cultural tourism, so tourists can go to these areas because there are so many things to see there. So, and that's not happening. Just government is focusing in trying to remove sargassum from Cancun, Playa del Carmen, Tulum, and this potential that these places have for a cultural tourism are it's completely non-existent. And also in Felipe Carrillo Puerto, they also told us that so when there's a lot of sargassum in touristic areas like Cancun, Playa del Carmen, etc., when there's a lot of sargassum and these places are inundated by sargassum, places are very cheap, and these all-inclusive resorts are very cheap. So like these places invite the the Mayans or other people from the south to go there to be to have like an internal or national tourism. So there's more tourism or more pushing towards national tourism when we have the beaches like that, and when the beaches are crystal clear, they are pushing the international tourism. So that's a huge it's just such a huge inequity, and that's something that it was very voiced from the Mayan community in Felipe Carrillo Puerto. So that's another example of what Laura was just saying.
Yeah, I think that really hints also at the question. I mean, the Mexican Caribbean is often associated with paradise, right? That's how it's sold in Germany, for example, but also in other countries. And well, I think that's a notion of paradise many tourists carry with them when they go there. But when we talk to people on the ground, we've learned it's also their paradise, and they live there. and they lose it. They have to deal with the algae. They have a brown tide. They have a changing ecosystem. They found species that were never there before and that were likely to be carried along with sargassum. And I think that's when we talk about post-colonial relations, for example, this idea of paradise and how it's invoked by whom, and who is like not considered when we talk about paradisical conditions. It's an interesting notion to think about these very powerful relations, I think.
Thank you so much for sharing this. It makes me extremely sad hearing these inequalities and injustices, but they're so important to think about. And you're not the first people who talk about that locals don't even really believe anymore that the nature is for them and they just see it for tourism. I heard the same things in Turks and Caicos, where a lot of locals think, oh, the clear water and the beautiful beaches, that's there for the tourists to enjoy, and they forget that it's their home and it's their paradise first and foremost, and that the tourists are just guests that they're inviting into it. I have a question because I know that both in Florida and in Quintana Roo, a lot of families and friends, they go to the beach on the weekends and spend the whole afternoon on the beach. And it's a very much a social place where they do their social gatherings. Did you get any answers about how sargassum is affecting their social life in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. What we saw when we were asking about how sargassum is affecting the well-being or affecting their daily life, absolutely, that was an answer that we heard from a lot of participants saying that they don't enjoy into the beach anymore, or that the conditions of having fun with the family have changed. So yeah, I mean, just the right to be in their beaches, it's there, but it's not the same anymore, and they are not uh, having this enjoyment of spending a picnic on the beach, or when we have this problem. Um, just I was it's not exactly related to this question, but I just uh, thought about an answer that we have from one participant that completely broke my heart. That it was so was the beautiful beaches where I wanted my ashes to be spread upon when I died are sinking now in sargassum. It's breaking. It's heartbreaking. So I think yeah, this type of answers from people are just telling you how bad this problem is for them.
Yeah, and you can definitely see here in Quintana Roo that when there's no sargassum, the beaches are full on a Sunday, and when there's sargassum, there's almost nobody there. So it really impacts a lot of families and people who do their socializing here. We heard a lot about your results, and we talked for a very long time, which is really cool. Um, so as a last question, I know you made the leaflets to present the results to the local community. Are you planning any other ways to present your results both to the scientific community and the local community?
Yeah, besides the leaflet, we just gave a, a talk in a conference last month in August. Then we also very recently had a binational meeting with participants to talk about these results and ask for feedback about these results and the whole process. We are right now working on the scientific paper. We hope that's published very soon. And I'm also working with a social scientist, with a political science student in now reaching paper So we hope that's also very available very soon. And that paper focuses on those differences by region. So in the Quintana Roo state, it's divided by the north region, where we have Cancun, Playa del Carmen, all these very touristic places. Then we have the Mayan area, the central area, and then we have the south area, where we have places like Mahawal, which is absolutely, crashed by sargassum. So, and in that paper, we're going to talk about what the needs of public policy and governance are between these regions, and how they are very different between regions. So yeah, and obviously this was another great uh, window to show our results and share this project with the people that are listening. So thank you for the opportunity.
Well, everyone, I want to thank you for joining us today and all that. And it's Francis, it's been long, but we've heard of a lot of interesting things, and we really thank you for your time today. And once again, we want to thank our sponsors, the Florida International University, the Kimberly Green uh, Latin American and Caribbean Center, and all that. They're always doing a lot of good things to hook us up and all that. And anyway, folks, we really appreciate you joining us today, and y'all have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Justin and Laura, for being here as well with us and presenting this amazing project.
Yes, thank you so much for making the time to talk to us and giving us so much of your time and of your information and knowledge.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for tuning in today and learning with us from our guests. If you want more information about what our guests talked about today, check our show notes for links and information in our archive. And don't forget to like and share our podcast with your friends.
If you enjoy our podcast, please consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon. For as little as $1 per month, you can support us and get the exclusive benefit of submitting questions for our interviewees before the interview.
The Sargassum Podcast is produced by Marine Conservation Without Borders and is made possible with financial support and consideration from the Kimberly Green Latin America and Caribbean Center, U.S. Department of Education Title VI grant. It is produced by Jose Martinez, Alex Danieli, Cleo Maridakis, Francisca Elmer, and Alois Lopez, and is hosted by Robbie Thigpen, Francisca Elmer, Jenna Cantuccio, Florence Menez, Cleo Maridakis, and Paula Diaz.
We will be back in 2 weeks with another exciting guest. The music for this podcast is from the song Them I Pray by Drizzle, the Round Drama, an artist from Roatan. Follow him on Spotify and YouTube for more music. But for now, this is the full song Them I Pray.